Hi there, happy hump day and welcome to Wednesday. So today we're talking about whether it's a good time to make a career leap. What's a career leap? It's you making some form of a career change, leaping into something that perhaps you haven't done before. If you look at this in the Australian context, there's no doubt that unemployment is at an all-time low. But we're also starting to face some economic headwinds. We're starting to see the economic cycle start to change. And so, yes, there's still lots of job vacancies in certain sectors, but we're also seeing other sectors that are starting to put people off. So you might be thinking, is now a good time to just stay safe, stay low, go for security and stability over pursuing a job that could be more interesting, more challenging, more in line with your purpose and where it is that you want to go. With everyone, all your circumstances are unique. So it's about you making a decision that works for you. But there are some things to consider, and I'm going to share some with you. So firstly, it's always a good time to sit back and reflect on where you're at. And to remember that getting clarity, thinking about what comes next, doesn't need to be a chore. It can be fun. You also want to make sure that as you're doing this work, doing your reflection, that you're putting aside those expectations, the expectations that people can have of you, because often those expectations can box you in, can narrow your frame of reference and the choices that you're going to make. There's also 4 other key things to consider. Firstly, know your career drivers. So when I'm working with clients and in the research that I've done, it's really important, what I've seen time and time again, that when you're really clear about your career drivers, the things that matter the most to you, it's much easier to make decisions, because you want to make decisions about your career in the context of your whole life. I often say to people, you can't divorce your career from your life. The two go hand in hand. Now, there's no one right answer for what your career drivers are. This is about you really digging into what matters to you. For some, the whole thing, the purpose, the thing that drives them the most is actually creating a happy life, a fulfilling life for them and their family. For other people, it might be about that pure challenge or a love of service, giving back to the community. It might be that you want stability. Maybe it is that you want flexibility. It's like that with your career drivers. You'll have a number of elements that you want to consider. But what you want to do is understand what matters the most to you, because what that does is it helps provide those parameters that you can then use to make decisions. Secondly, don't lock in too early. So if you are thinking about moving to a new career or doing something different, if you lock in too early, if you get too fixated on what it has to be, what it has to look like, you may inadvertently ignore something that could actually be really interesting or really fulfilling. So what you want to be able to do is experiment, play a little bit. What I find is that people frequently find their purpose, that alignment between their love of challenge or what it is that most interests them, when they're trying lots of different things. It's through that experimentation, through learning, that we often discover what we really enjoy and also what we're really good at. And as part of that experimentation, connect with lots of people, talk to lots of people, because when you do that, you'll get ideas. It'll expand your field of view around what's possible. Number 3. Yes, we're up to number 3. Take a risk. Now, what that looks like is obviously very personal, because everyone has different appetites, different tolerance for risk. But pursuing what you really want to do, what lines up with your purpose, the thing that most excites and challenges you, often comes with a risk attached. It can be easier just to go with the flow and do what everyone else is doing or do what everybody else expects of you. That taking a risk isn't just potentially a financial risk. It can be a risk to your self-esteem, a risk to the expectations that others have of you, a risk because you're pushing yourself beyond what you're comfortable doing or what you feel is possible. But when you take a risk, when you step outside what's comfortable, what's expected, It's amazing what you find that you can do. There are going to be people that challenge you, that question you, that worry that you might be making the wrong decision. You need to be comfortable with the decisions that you're making. And what I've found is that the more willing you are to have a risk, to try something, the more open you are to the opportunities that are in front of you. Number 4, make the trade-offs. Everything in life involves a trade-off. If you decide to do one thing, it often means that there's something else that you won't have the capacity to do. I certainly found that when I walked away from my role in corporate, and also through many of the corporate roles that I took. What matters the most? And so if I go back to point 1 around finding your career drivers, that's why finding your career drivers is so important. When you know what matters the most, it's easier to make that decision. Where am I spending my energy? Where am I investing my time, my resources? What am I willing to step away from so that I can step forward for something else? You know, it was the American author Mark Twain who said, success is a journey, not a destination. It requires constant effort, vigilance, and reevaluation. And that's what I'd really encourage you to do with your career. Because success isn't just a linear one-way path. There's lots of detours. There's lots of ways you can go. And that's the benefit of taking the time to reflect. Where are you now? Where do you want to get to? And therefore, what comes next? Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Take care.